Hello and welcome to episode of the Bubbs on Sports podcast. Today is Wednesday, June 14th. Hope everyone's having a day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. We've got a lot to get into today. What a game last night between the Yankees and the Mets. Game 1 of the Subway Series. Game 2 will be tonight back at Citi Field. Looking forward to tonight's game again. Last night's game was obviously awesome. All the hype and anticipation going in. What a game. What a comeback for the New York Yankees. What a win for the New York Yankees. And another one of those losses for the Mets that you're scratching your head. You're questioning a lot of things that went wrong in that game, especially late in the game where they had opportunities in the 8th, came up in the 9th with, down 1, and they went down 1, 2, 3. Beatty, Pham, and Guillorme going down 1, 2, 3 in the 9th, leaving the bases loaded with 1 out in the 8th when you have Lindor and Marte coming up. They both strike out. Your two big money guys, your two big hitters didn't get the job done. So a really frustrating night if you're a New York Mets fan. But if you're a Yankee fan like me, you're fired up. And it was a great win last night. It was a good win coming out of a rough homestand where you went 2-4. You lost 2 or 3 against the Red Sox. You're starting to see a little bit of struggles from this team. They came out big last night, and especially in the 4th inning. And a couple guys that haven't been producing recently came up big last night with a couple big hits. So that was really good to see out of the New York Yankees. We're going to recap it all today. We're going to recap Game 1, get you ready for Game 2. Verlander, Garrett Cole tonight. So hopefully another good game there. Hopefully another exciting game like last night. We'll also get into the Vegas Golden Knights. Congratulations to the Vegas Golden Knights. They are your 2023 Stanley Cup champions. They dominated the Florida Panthers 9-3. Panthers without Tkachuk, who obviously had the sternum issue. He's out. He's done. He was done for, the game, and then probably who knows what would have happened, the rest of the series. But they clearly missed them last night. Panthers did not look like the same team. The Golden Knights were the better team throughout the series, so the Knights win in 5. So the Nuggets won the NBA Finals on Monday, and last night the Golden Knights won on Tuesday night. So now out of the 4 major sports, the one sport that is now going on through the next 3 months until we hit September when regular season football starts is Major League Baseball. So strap in. This is where baseball really gets fun. This is where you get all the action. No other sports on. It's baseball for the next 3 months until you obviously hit the football season come September. If you're counting preseason, then really for the next month and a half. But not counting preseason, for about the next 2.5, 3 months, it's all baseball. So looking forward to that. So we'll start today with the New York Mets and the New York Yankees last night. We'll get to the Knights later. We'll get to the game tonight, obviously, as well here in this segment. Going to be one big topic here with the Yankees and Mets. We'll touch a little bit upon and the Golden Knights winning the Stanley Cup as well. And then obviously we'll preview tonight's game. But last night's game was great. Again, I talked about this yesterday going into the game. As a Yankee fan, I love the Subway Series. I know everybody has their preference on whether or not they like the Subway Series, whether or not they don't like the Subway Series, whatever it is. I know everybody's got their preference. I know everybody going into this game, some felt it wasn't as hyped up because both teams were struggling. Yankees going into last night's game, obviously, 9 games back in the division, 9 games up on 500, which isn't bad, but they were 9 games back in the division, and they just came off of a 2-4 homestand, and they're without Aaron Judge. They're obviously without Harrison Bader, a couple guys that you need going are struggling in the lineup going into last night's game. So you look at last night's game, and I know there was a lot of people that said, it's not a great game. You look at the Mets, they went into last night's game 31-35. They've lost 8 of their last 9 or whatever, 2-8 in their last 10. They just, broke their 7-game losing streak the other day. They got swept. They had a 1-5 road trip, all that stuff. They've been a disaster. But I still felt like, again, going into last night's game, both teams needed it really badly. And from the start, it looked like it was going to be all Mets. And it was ugly. And it wasn't good. As a Yankee fan, I'm sitting there and I'm frustrated. I'm furious. Because Sevy, again, showed the same struggles he's shown his last 2 outings. He has now had 3 bad outings this year and 2 good outings, which isn't good. It's not what you want. We'll get to him here in a second. But again, last night, Yankees and Mets didn't disappoint. And last night was kind of an old school type baseball game. And I like the pitch clock. I like the faster-paced game, but last night's game was 3 hours and 19 minutes. And it was 3 hours and 19 minutes of a lot of action, a lot of excitement, a lot of scoring for the Yankees, a lot of opportunities for the Mets, and some of them they took advantage of. Others they didn't, like the 8th inning, which we'll get to here in a little bit. But last night, again, just shows the beauty of the Subway Series. And I always say, and again, I feel like going into last night's game, there was some people out there with the way both teams are, with the way the rosters are, without Alonso, without Judge, the two biggest names on these two teams, without those two guys, it lacked maybe a little bit of juice. Not having Edwin Diaz out, maybe it lacked a little bit of a juice going in, but during the game, it sure didn't lack juice. It was typical Yankees-Mets, and it's an exciting rivalry, and it always will be. I've always loved the Subway Series. There's these people now, there's this notion going around going into last night's game that it doesn't matter. Like, I never understood that. Just because both teams have hit a rough stretch doesn't mean the series doesn't matter. If anything, it matters even more now. If anything, it matters more because both teams kind of need these wins. Like, the Mets desperately need to get back on track. As much as you can look at it and say, oh, yeah, there's still 90-plus games to go. We're only in June. That each game goes by, each game that you miss opportunity to score, each game that you don't win, each day that goes by, you have less and less and less amount of time and less more opportunities left to make that playoff push, get back into the postseason conversation. So these games mean a lot. You know, when you look at the big picture, they do. And last night's game was awesome. So again, you start off the game, and I got similar feelings to how last year's Subway Series went when they first met at Citi Field, Game 1 of the series. Going back a little bit, I could probably look back on my scorebook to when that game exactly took place and the result of it and stuff like that. But it was Game 1 of that series. The Mets ended up winning, which was, the one difference. And obviously, the Yankees come out on top in this one. But you go back to that game, and if you remember correctly, Judge and Rizzo went back-to-back in the first inning. And the Yankees took that 2-0 lead. And it ended up turning out to be where, Montgomery ended up didn't pitch well. Mets ended up coming back. Yankees kind of fought back into it. It was kind of close late. Then the Mets pulled away late. And last night you got that similar vibe. Stanton, who comes up batting second last night. Yankees rolled out an interesting lineup. Boone's kind of been toying with the leadoff spot. DJ was in there the other day. It's been Torres. It's been Calhoun, who was out of the lineup completely last night. Which I thought was interesting. I was kind of surprised to see Calhoun out of the lineup. They rolled with McKinney, IKF, Bowers and Wright. IKF, they've been subbing him in late in games for defense, so I guess Boone figured, get him out there instead of just continuing to bring him in late in games, give him a starting opportunity, put him in center, have Bowers shift over to right, and obviously McKinney there and left. So I was a little surprised to see Willie Calhoun not out there. But anyway, they started with Bowers. He ended up striking out first, and here comes Stan, hits a homer. And that was the only hit in the first inning, that was the only really damage for the Yankees in the first inning. Rizzo ended up getting hit, but it didn't matter. LeMahieu ground out to a force out at second, 3-6. But you had that same feeling because they get off to the good start. It was good to see Stanton hitting, and I talked about this going into the series, and we need these guys to get going while Judge is out. Stanton needs to get going. Rizzo needs to get back into form. LeMahieu hasn't been right all year. If LeMahieu can find a way to give us a stretch of games where he puts it all together, and hits over 300 over the next 10, 15 games, if he can find a way to do that, that's huge. He had a homer last night, went for 2 for 4 the other day. Again, his overall, I know he had struggled on Sunday Night Baseball. I can look back here. On Sunday Night Baseball, he went 1 for 4. So he did have a hit. So I guess maybe he's been hitting a little bit more, but he's still striking out a lot. He did have a K last night, but he had that a huge homer in the fourth, which was a 2-run shot, which made it a 2-run game. And after that, it really opened up the floodgates, which we'll get to here in a second. But you saw Stanton get back into the groove last night. Hopefully he can continue to do that. Like, Stanton, we talk about this a lot with Stanton. This is a guy that when he comes back from the IL, it takes him a while to get going. He hasn't, after that Friday night game in LA, the first game of that 3-game set was the last time he made a legitimate impact to the lineup. And up until last night. And you got to see more of that last night from Stanton because that's what he can do. Boom, set the tone early. You put Judge in the lineup, Rizzo gets back to what he can do, That's what the Yankees need. They haven't had that. It's been all Judge. They need Stanton to get going like that last night. To see him get off to that homer see him hit that homer was a good start. Then you go to the bottom of the first. And look, I'll just get this right out of the way here with Sevy. I don't know. It was, again, a 96-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle. The velocity's been down a little bit. He seems fine physically. Matt Blake said it. Sevy has said it. They feel it's more of an adjustment. They feel he kind of leaks over to first base side a little bit more. I saw this excellent breakdown today of Sevy. His release point right now, where he's at in his kind of power position right after he comes out of his set, his release point is messed up. His mechanics are off from where they were last year to where they were this year. Last year, he was a lot more lower, getting a lot more drive in his hips. This year, he's a lot more kind of higher, standing up more, not as much bend in the hip area, not as much power going up with the, with the forearm, kind of going up and then pulling down. It's more just kind of falling. And he's falling and everything's just going to the first base side. He's just falling to his left. Everything's going to the first base side. He's losing all of his power. His arm's all the way out here, and that's why they're leaving over the heart of the plate. And that's why a lot of his pitches that were hitting last year or that were, strikes last year aren't strikes this year because it's all arms. You're going to lose velocity because his lower half's completely out of it. So he's got to get back to that because you have the solo home run by Nimmo in the first, and if it wasn't for the Yankees' big 5-run fourth inning, this game's over. And you need him to get back to that form. It's frustrating because he looked so good in his first two outings. What now could have all of a sudden gone wrong? Because this is now 3 starts that have been poor. And in 5 outings this year, which isn't a small sample size, but it isn't, it's not a large sample size, but it isn't a small sample size either. It's a sample size. It's 5 starts. He's got a 6.48 ERA. 4 2/3, 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 earned, 3 walks, 4 Ks last night. 104 pitches through 4 2/3. That wasn't efficient. He was letting up a lot of hits. It just isn't good enough for Sevy. It's not cutting it. They put up 2 in the first, 2 more in the second, double by Mark Canha, which got them going in the bottom of the second. Then Nimmo got hit, and then McNeil hit a single. That drove in Canha. He had 2 balks, which is just so uncharacteristic. He had 2 balks. He had 2 balks in that second inning. That just can't happen. So Sevy's got to be better. I'll continue to say that. And you go to the fourth, and look, I'm not going to sit here and crush Boone. You had the Guillorme single. You had 2 outs. Boone decided to, keep him out there, and he let up the Guillorme single. And obviously it ended up scoring the run. It scored Beatty, who reached on a single. He started to settle in a little bit, I guess. He didn't give up a run in the fourth. He goes out there for the fifth, gets 2 outs, allows a single, gets an out after that. It's just, Beatty then reaches the second on the ground out by Pham. It's just unfortunate that he hits the single. I'm not going to crush Boone for keeping him out there. At the end of the day, we got the job done. We won. I know the way the Yankees like Marinacio's changeup and the way his pitches work on lefties. I probably assume Buck probably would have pinch hit for Guillorme in that situation. With Marinaccio, who plays well against lefties, he probably would have pinch hit for Guillorme. He had either Escobar, who's switch hitter, or Vientos that he could have brought up in that situation. Could have been Vientos providing a little bit of pop. Could have delivered a big shot. It was also Boone. You got to realize it's coming off of an inning where they just scored 5 runs. So at that point, it was a 6-5 game. Not that they had breathing room, but if it could go either. It could go either way. They just got back into the game. It wasn't that he was trying to give Sevy the win. I think he was just trying to kind of build up his confidence, get him out of there. 5 innings, and at least the final 2 innings, he gave you a little bit of length. I don't know. I'm not gonna crush Boone for it, but it was definitely an interesting decision. I think a lot of it was Sevy. I think sometimes you got to trust the players. But either way, it didn't affect us in the long run. We go to that 4th inning, and that's where things really started to get going for the Yankees. But back to my point, Sevy's got to get right. He's got to get right. You got to get right. So back to my point, back to what I was saying, 4th inning. So things got started here with Rizzo, and it ended with Glaber. So we technically, if you want to call it batting through the order, batting around, whatever you consider batting around. I know people these days have different It's either if you get back to the guy that led off the inning, if he gets back up at bat, or if the 9-hitter gets up that inning, even if he gets out, that's considered batting around. So whatever your take is on it, the Yankees sent 9 guys to the plate in that one inning. Whatever your take on it is, whether that's batting around or whether Rizzo had to get up again for it to be officially, whatever you feel, the Yankees sent up 9 guys that inning, and they got the job done. Rizzo started off with a single. Again, I talked about this. Rizzo with a single. Stanton with a homer last night. Okay, Volpe with a huge double in that inning to score Higashioka, to score IKF. But back to earlier that inning, DJ with the 2-run shot. You then get IKF with the single. He reaches on the McKinney ground out, advances in the second. You get Higgy with a single. You have first and third, 1 out for Volpe. First and third, 1 out. Big spot here for Volpe, right? Again, worst case, you're sitting, you see Volpe come up. This is a big moment. Mets, big spot. I will tell you, Volpe has not shied away from the pressure at all this year. He's come up a lot of times in big spots, and he does it this time. A big-time double off the bat of Volpe to score IKF, to score Higashioka. That plated 4 runs that inning. Then Bowers came up. He hits a single. Volpe scores. Again, what he can do on the base pass, was able to leg out a double, and it was able to go from second to home on that single from Bowers. He needs to get on base a lot because what he can do on base, excellent base stealer, threat on the bases, gets in the pitcher's head. He changes the complexion of the game when he's on base, and that's so huge when it comes to Volpe and his ability and one of his greatest strengths, and that's why he's got to work more walks. He made adjustment. He kind of closed up his stance a little bit. The outside pitch has been getting him a lot this year. He made an adjustment last night, which was good to see, and it obviously worked out. He ended up having another double in the 6th, which was a misplayed ball by Nimmo. They counted as a double, but either way, a 2-for-4 night for Volpe, a run scored, and an RBI, a big night for him in his Subway Series debut. And look, Scherzer again was not good. Again, the ace of your rotation, one of your top guys, wasn't good. 3 1/3, 7 hits, 6 runs, no walks, 2 Ks. ERA goes from 3.71 to 4.45. These are your guys that you're giving $40+ million a year for. We'll see if Verlander shows out tonight. But man, oh man, Scherzer just looks bad. He just looks washed. He looks washed. He just doesn't look like the same player he once was. And we've talked about this a lot. The harsh reality in sports is some guys' declines happen slowly over time. And some guys, they'll have a good year. I think we could all agree Scherzer last year had a good season. Maybe not quite down the stretch, but had a good year. And even maybe down the stretch, that was kind of the sign of Scherzer dominance starting to end. But you go into this season after a year last year where he still pitched to an ERA in the 2s, to come out this year and be this bad up to this point, I mean, it's not good. He had a 2.29 ERA last year. 4.45 ERA this year. Verlander had an ERA in the 1s last year, below 2, won a Cy Young. His ERA is 4.48. Those cannot be the ace of your rotation. That just can't. I mean, I believe J.P. Sears, the Oakland A's supposed ace, has got a 4.15 ERA on the Oakland A's. Got a better ERA than Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander if you put them together. That can't happen. And you're paying those guys so much more money. So Scherzer has not been anywhere close to the pitcher he once was. And you really start to wonder if he's just hit his limit. If he's just hit his limit where he's just not the guy anymore. And it happens. Sometimes it's abrupt. Sometimes guys slowly decline. Sometimes guys, they have a really good year. The next season, they're not the same, and they're just never the same. They just fall off. Everybody ages differently in sports. For a while there, for some guys, age is just a number. Others, it doesn't look like for Scherzer age is just a number. You could tell he's 38. He's going to be 39 in July. You could start to see that age creeping in. It's unfortunate because you gave him all that money. He's got a player option next year. You probably don't think he's probably going to opt back in. He's probably going to opt into that player option because why wouldn't he? If he goes out there this year and finishes the year with a 4.50 ERA and isn't the same player, maybe has another IL stint or whatever. And I'm not trying to, predict an injury or whatever, but let's just say he finishes the year with 4.50 ERA and the Mets miss the playoffs. He's going to obviously opt back in. Of course he is. Why wouldn't he? He's got $40 million. It's going to be like similar to Javier Baez. Of course, Javier Baez will opt into his contract when it comes around. He's one of the worst hitters in baseball, but he's getting paid a ton, and it was a terrible contract. Again, Scherzer's not Javier Baez bad, but it's starting to look like this could be a really brutal contract for the New York Mets. So it's ugly. And then you had the whole Drew Smith issue, which was interesting. Again, you know how I feel about this. I mean, you got to find you got to find a meet in the middle. Obviously, rosin's not is not sticky or is too sticky. It's legal, but I guess guys are starting to abuse it. They've got to figure something out. Because we've seen this a lot this year. There seems to be a disconnect between what is allowed and what's not allowed between the players and obviously the league. Supposedly the umps have been all tested in terms of how to predict whether or not the guy was using sticky substance. They feel a hand with rosin, and they were supposedly know kind of what a hand's supposed to feel like if it has rosin and what a hand's supposed to feel like if it doesn't have rosin or if it's sticky stuff. I know some guys with rosin and alcohol they've used, which makes it more sticky. I know guys have used, rosin and sweat, but over time, it makes it really sticky. And you've got rosin in the bullpen. So it's just, it's rough. And especially when you get into these warmer months, like you get into July and you're sweating a ton, and that rosin and sweat builds up, it's going to make your hands super sticky. So we'll see. We'll see. But it's a tough situation because there continues to just be a disconnect. I continue to say, find a universal substance that they can agree on. Look, rosin, if that's legal, let them use rosin. Now, if they include alcohol into it, I know some people say, they've been putting rosin and alcohol and it makes it even more stickier. That's illegal. But if rosin and sweat's legal, it's legal. Like, sometimes you just got to go with it. So, I don't know. We'll see. But, tough spot there. All in all, both bullpens didn't do a terrible job. To be honest with you, when you look at it, I mean, the Mets, after they only got 3 1/3 from Scherzer, they had to cover up the rest of the game, and they only allowed one more run after that fourth. So, overall, the bullpens didn't do an awful job. The Mets bullpen didn't do a bad job. When you look at the Yankees bullpen, it was phenomenal. And I got to give credit again to Clay Holmes. Guy's been inconsistent at times, but these last 14 outings for him, these last, whatever it's been, he's been phenomenal. He's been very good. He's looked like the Clay Holmes that we had last year. Tommy Kahnle has come up big already. The Yankees last night used 6 arms out of that bullpen. Pieced it together. No runs. Struck out 5 guys, no runs, had 1 walk, only allowed 2 hits. Yankees bullpen has been the best in baseball. You're getting contributions from everybody. I mean, Clay Holmes, you can't describe and explain how big he was last night coming into that inning in the 8th, 1 out, bases loaded. You've got to face Lindor and Starling Marte, and you strike both of them out. And 2-2 count on Lindor, I believe it was a 3-2 count on Marte. Bases loaded, on the road, tough spot. He came up huge. And Michael King working a clean 9th inning, 1-2-3, getting Beatty to ground out, getting Pham to strike out, and getting Guillorme to line out to center to end the game. This bullpen has been phenomenal, and it's the best in baseball. ERA-wise, it is. And, Clay Holmes has been very good recently. Big outs last night. Michael King continues to be consistent. It only took him 9 pitches to get through that 9th. Marinaccio, again, Cordero. Cordero only threw 5 pitches, but, again, he's been very good this year. He got the strikeout yesterday, even though he only threw 5 pitches. Tommy Kahnle is a huge arm we got back. There's a lot to like when it comes to this bullpen. There really is. There's a lot to like. And these weren't even the guys that we expected going into the year that would make big contributions. I don't think many people saw Jimmy Cordero coming in big games and getting big outs for us. But he has been. Ian Hamilton, before he went on the IL, was very solid. And he's starting a throwing program. It seems like he's on his way back, but this bullpen is legit. They are a serious, serious bullpen. What they continue to do, and especially you only get 4 2/3 from your starter, and he allows 6 runs, 5 earned. You got a lot to do. You got big shoot. You got a lot of work to do, and to be able to come in there and do the job, 6 pitchers coming in there and collectively not allowing a run the rest of the way. There's so much credit that you've got to give to this Yankee bullpen Marinaccio, Cordero, Canely, Peralta, who struggled a little bit, but then Holmes came in, finished the job, and Michael King in the ninth, picking up the save. So all in all, Yankees 7 runs, 11 hits, 1 error. Mets 6 runs, 9 hits, no error. After the Yankees fell down 5-1 going into the fourth, Yankees had a big fourth inning, putting up 5 runs. They put up 1 more in the sixth. Mets added 1 more on in the bottom of the fifth. Yankees obviously added 1 more in the sixth to get it to a 7-6 game. And after that, that was all the runs. Another game for the Mets where they get off to an early lead and they blow it. Similar to the Braves series, 3 straight games there, they blew the lead. And again, in this situation, it's been the pitching recently for the New York Mets that has not gotten the job done. So, Marinaccio picked up the win. Walker with the loss. Michael King with the save. 7:10 Eastern was the start time. 10:29 was the finish. Game time, 3 hours and 19 minutes. 43,707 were in attendance at Citi Field. And that's another thing that I love about the Subway Series. You've got Yankee chants, you've got Met chants. You got them competing against each other. Anytime a Met chant start, Yankee chant start, like it's just seeing the fan bases kind of go at it, in that sports rivalry, in the city with two passionate fan bases. That's what makes it so awesome, and that's what makes these games a lot of fun. So, looking forward to tonight. Game 2 of this Subway Series. Garrett Cole on the mound tonight versus Justin Verlander, coming off a really rough start in Atlanta. Mets have already released their lineup. It's 3:30, and the Mets have already released their lineup. So it's Nimmo, Marte, McNeil, Lindor, Alvarez, Beatty, Pham, Escobar, and Vientos. That's your lineup today for the Mets. So definitely a little different from yesterday. Yankees have yet to release their lineup, but that's who Garrett Cole will face today. And, Game 2 of the Subway Series. Games 3 and 4 will be July, back at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. As I mentioned earlier today, Golden Knights got the win last night, 9-3. So congratulations to the Vegas Golden Knights. They are your 2023 Stanley Cup champions. An absolute just a murdering last night in Vegas in terms of the Knights and the way they played. 2-0 early. The Panthers early in the second period added on another goal, made it 2-1. Ekblad, who was playing with a ton of injuries, I believe he had popped his shoulder out twice. He had a torn oblique, had a broken foot, so he played with a lot of injuries. But this Florida team, they seemed down and out this year for a while there, and then they came back. But the 4 goals in the second, 2 in the first, 3 more in the third was just too much for Vegas. You look at Florida and they scored 3 goals. That should put you in a position to win a hockey game. But when you allow 8, when the goalie allows, 8 goals allowed, one of them obviously I believe was an empty net or whatever. But when you allow 9 goals, not good enough. So Vegas wins, and it was a pretty dominant series from start to finish. I was wrong. I thought Florida would win the series personally. I just thought they were kind of that magical team where, they had a rough year in December. A lot of people they were really bad. They weren't anywhere close to the playoffs. They kind of stood pat at the trade deadline. You're kind of wondering, all right, what's going to happen with this team in the offseason? And all of a sudden they started to win. They got on a roll. They just snuck into the playoffs. Them and the Buffalo Sabres, it came down to about the final 2-3 days of the regular season. They just squeaked in and they got all this way. So what a run for them. But Vegas, what a startup franchise Vegas has been. They've built a really solid fan base. They now have, in 6 years, they've gone to 2 Stanley Cups, won one of them. They've now gotten that Stanley Cup win. Bruce Cassidy, with a heck of a job he's done, getting the job done, getting him on the mountaintop. So a lot of credit goes around to Vegas, that front office, and everybody there for getting this done. A team that has been a very successful startup franchise for the first couple years of their history so far. So they get the job done. And now baseball, over the next couple months, it's all baseball until the NFL season starts up, which obviously we'll have a lot of coverage on that as well. But yeah, that's it. So now you head into the summer for both the hockey and the NHL. We'll see how it all plays out. I know you're already starting to see the Bradley Beal rumors with the New York Knicks. So there's a lot of exciting things coming around. Rangers hiring Peter Laviolette yesterday. So he'll have his introductory press conference next Tuesday. We'll have that covered, and we'll talk about that as well. So a lot more content coming your way. And, yes, Game 2 tonight. Yankees-Mets Subway Series. Looking forward to it. Should be good. Hopefully it's similar to last night. Maybe a little less stressful. Maybe a 6, Give me a blowout tonight. Give me an 8-1 Yankee win. Realistically, 5-2 Yankee win. I think Cole's going to pitch well tonight. The Mets will score a run or two probably, but I think Cole all in all is going to be good, and I think we'll get to Verlander. I mean, we got to Scherzer last night. Verlander, you could say, he's probably actually been worse than Scherzer, so feel good about your chances tonight. I said it. I thought the Yankees were going to split with the Mets. I said, you're probably going to lose last night, and for a while there, I thought that was going to be the case until obviously that fourth inning where they put up 5 runs, and I thought they would win tonight. So they got the win last night, feeling pretty good about tonight. So enjoy the game. Game 2 of the Subway Series. Should be good. I'll try to get a podcast in tomorrow. I'll see how my schedule works out. Tomorrow, a little bit. The scheduling might be a little iffy. I'll have a lot more content coming out on Friday, though. So Friday, we'll have a lot of content coming out, including a special guest. So definitely stay tuned for that. Got a lot more content coming your way. As always, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.